Welcome. This is Monty once again from DPL Surveillance Equipment. We're a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. We have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have perhaps the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent or lay away as well. In addition to that, we have a very large video library. That's a video demonstration library where you can peruse the library and watch us demonstrate your favorite spy gadgets, everything ranging from bug detectors to GPS trackers to listening devices, that's audio listening devices or digital video recorders, digital voice recorders, anti-terrorist products, nanny cameras, you name it. We're demonstrating it. And let's see what else. We have the largest articles directory that you're going to find online or offline for that matter. So again, take a look at the articles directory where we talk about everything from electronic harassment and prevention to targeted individuals, and we're talking about cell phone detection and interception. We're talking about the usage of spy phones. We're talking about GPS jammers and blockers. You name it, we're talking about it. And then if you have any questions, just give us a call anytime. 888-344-3742. That's 888-344-3742. Now, this particular session, we've titled it, as usual, CyberSecurity Newsflash, but it's episode number 10. We're all the way up to episode number 10. We call it Protecting the Wayback Machine. Now, when we have these certain titles, it doesn't mean that the entire Cybersecurity Newsflash is all about that particular title, because we have a number of different topics to cover. But I think this is going to be the main topic, primarily because it really touches on a lot of things that are going on right now. For instance, on the internet, I don't know whether or not you guys know it or not, but there's a lot of disinformation, and there's a lot of what we call misinformation as well. Now, disinformation is primarily what we're concerned about, mainly because disinformation has to do with information that's intentionally designed to mislead you. And we want to make sure that you guys understand there is a huge market when it comes to disinformation. See, a lot of companies are actually hiring out the idea that we want someone to spread false news or fake news. I know a lot of you guys have probably heard of the spreading, hopefully, the idea that there's not all news is good news, believe it or not. Sometimes news is intentionally designed to mislead you, and you may go to a website and find out that there's a weird angle to a story that you know full well what the story is and what the truth is. You have a pretty good idea, but someone has put in a crazy spin on something, whether it had to do with elections, whether it had to do with some company whose stock is going down for some particular reason, and it seems like someone's manipulating the information, maybe for financial gain in that situation, or maybe there's a situation where someone wants to spread bad news about a product or a service offered by a company, or maybe someone wants to defame you and spread negative information about you in particular. We call this disinformation because it's intentionally designed to mislead you. And a lot of times we go onto the internet, and I think the Wall Street Journal has done a poll where some large percentage of teens actually who are getting information, like a lot of us online rather, they can't tell fake news from real news. So there's a lot of deception going on. But getting right to the topic here, there's something called the Internet Archive. They're seeking emergency backup in Canada. Let's go over a little bit of the details of the story. The surprise election of Donald Trump as the 45th U.S. president is still sinking in for his supporters, opponents, and the rest of the world. Over the next 4 years, Trump's administration will have vast influence over privacy, surveillance, and data security. Fearing the worst, the Internet Archive, a nonprofit organization based in San Francisco, has started a fundraising campaign to set up a replica of its archive in Canada. Since launching in 1996, the Internet Archive has amassed one of the largest digital archives of publications, movies, software, and books. It also runs the Wayback Machine, which saves 300 million web pages per week. It's one of the few services that index screenshots of web pages for posterity. Brewster Kahle, the internet entrepreneur who started the archive, envisions the project as a way to partially preserve the ever-morphing web. At the Internet Archive, we are fighting to protect our readers' privacy in the digital world. This is a quote. But Kahle believes that the Internet Archive may be threatened by Trump, particularly if he loosens libel laws, giving people greater power to remove to force the removal of material online that they don't like. Accordingly, the Internet Archive is seeking donations to replicate its 20 petabyte archive on Canadian soil in a move that he believes would help shield it from U.S. government influence. The election was a firm reminder that institutions like ours, built for the long term, need to design for change, Kahle writes in a blog post. There's historical precedent for libraries disappearing, Kahle notes, citing Egypt's Library of Alexandria, which was lost to fire in a period of war. The project to establish a repository called the Internet Archive of Canada will cost millions of dollars, he says, but allow the archive to withstand the uncertain political future in the United States. For us, it means keeping our cultural material safe, private, perpetual, and accessible, he says. It means preparing for a web that may face greater restrictions. It means serving patrons in a world in which government surveillance is not going away. Indeed, it looks like it will increase. The ephemeral web, okay? Presumably, the Internet Archive has backups in place, but war and natural disasters aside, Kahle says deeper intentional actions have previously affected libraries, citing in particular legal regimes and institutional failure. Throughout history, libraries have fought against terrible violations of privacy where people have been rounded up simply for what they read, he writes. At the Internet Archive, we are fighting to protect our readers' privacy in the digital world. So basically what Kahle was saying, you guys, is as we go from site to site, blog to blog, and different places on the internet, a lot of times what could happen is, again, you know, we have there's a possibility always that someone can go back and edit and modify, change pictures, take down videos, replace them with other videos. And so you go back another day, you know, some other day, and you take a look at the same information you were looking at yesterday, and it's like, wait a minute, this story is different. It's a different take on the same story that I read the other day. And so what the Internet Archive is doing, you guys, it's preserving, taking a snapshot of various web pages, like they mentioned, and archiving them so that as of a certain time and date, we'll have a very good idea in terms of what actually happened, so that in the event that somebody does go back and take a look at modifying, if someone wants to modify something, change a picture, video, whatever it is, that we will hopefully we'll be able to go back and compare. So this is very important. Reading on, never before have humans had so much access to information than through the capabilities of the internet. And never before have governments, spies, cyber criminals, and others been able to exploit it for profit, surveillance, and influence. This year's presidential election showed that the real battleground was the internet, where the lines between fact and fiction were always open for debate. So again, this really drives the point of making sure that we can understand and tell the difference between real news and fake news, real information and fake information. Fake news surges. One hallmark of the recent U.S. presidential election was that policy discussions faded into the background as Russian hackers essentially fed news cycles with steady streams of confidential emails that largely amounted to inconsequential fluff. Although hard to quantify, the influence of fake or questionable material presented as legitimate news undeniably tilted perceptions and is now prompting soul searching by the likes of Facebook and Google over how to re-engineer their systems to avoid being used for gross manipulation of the public. See, I don't know whether you guys know it or not, but now, as they mentioned, Google and Facebook and all these guys are going back and they're taking a look at what role did they play in helping to disseminate false information. So, unfortunately, when you get information off the internet and you act on it, you make business decisions, political judgments or calls or whatever, and then you find out after the fact that you were acting on false information or fake information. Now it's too late. So we really need to figure out what are the implications and how we're going to counter as much of this happening as possible, because going forward, we have to have some way of comparing information. Hello, Dylan, what's happening? As we compare information, going from news source to news source, we want to get an idea of who's going to stand behind their information, who's credible, who's not, and who can we really trust. So that's one reason why the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine is so important. It captures what's been on the web before it has been modified or disappears. I've used it countless times as a journalist. This is Kahle talking. While its snapshots are often too infrequent for my liking, it's often still an indispensable research tool. So basically he's saying that we have to have a way of going back and finding out whether or not information has been manipulated. And there's nothing like having an official organization that has a time and date stamped video, blog, article, some post or something where we can compare information, times and dates, and see exactly when something has been modified, if it has been modified. The internet is in a constant state of revision, from vanishing tweets to slight word changes in corporate blog posts. I've long since learned to compulsively make PDFs of web pages that even have a hint of controversy, since in a blink they're destined to vanish. Thus, there's great value in having a reliable repository for showing just how something appeared online at a certain point in time. Now, we can't stress this enough, because I have a lot of customers who are kind of like paranoid or whatever, and they think, they feel that information on a page that they just looked at has been manipulated, or that it disappeared or something. And, one day it's there, one day it's not. And I talk to a lot of these people, and my answer is simply this, because I do it all the time. If I go to a particular website and I find an interesting article, a lot of times I will save that information, save a copy to my hard drive, save a copy to something like a Dropbox or iCloud or whatever. So if you have 2 or 3 copies of something important, then the chances that someone's going to get that information, manipulate it, and somehow, feed it back to you, and we're to the point where you don't know what's real and what's not. Go back and take a look at your saved versions. Okay, saved information like what's in articles and blogs or whatever, that doesn't take up very much space. And if it's really important, then it's worth saving to 2 or 3 locations. When you back up your information to your external hard drives, portable hard drives, iClouds or Dropboxes, then you can go back and you can take a look at it. So there really is no excuse for us not having information that's preserved in its original format. Okay, so if someone tries to change something, you should be able to go back and compare the two. So this is one of my strategies. Kahle is preparing for a dark future that hopefully will not come to pass. Widespread censorship or restrictions on access to information within the United States. This is not uncommon in other parts of the world, and one needs to look no further than at the long list of authoritarian regimes that closely monitor what content is viewed and transmitted on the domestic internet. Kahle's worries may seem extreme or perhaps even unfounded given America's history, but from a technology standpoint, his plan is well-grounded in common sense and well-tested IT maxims. The maxim is simply back up frequently and keep those backups in different places. to guard against unexpected events, because who knows what the future holds. So that is pretty much why Kahle is concerned and why you should be concerned. Again, information. We're at a critical point, you guys, in time where news articles are getting modified and changed, and dates and facts and every figures, whatever, are getting changed and modified, and companies are hiring those third-party companies who are hired to do nothing but feed false information, whether it's GMO foods, whether it's the safety of a product, whether it's the integrity of a pharmaceutical drug company or something, or maybe it's a politician who, that his background information has been changed or whatever. There's companies out there, they're making a lot of money, and they hire, again, for misinformation and disinformation, to confuse you, to instill fear and uncertainty and doubt. Okay, so be aware that this is a big business, a major industry worth billions of dollars, or soon to be worth billions of dollars, and we need to be able to sort through the facts versus the fiction. So moving right along, some Google accounts hit by malicious Android apps. This particular malware is called Gooligan, Gooligan. Gooligan malware takes control of devices, installs other apps, and adds spewing software on older phones. Malicious software disguised as legitimate apps for Android smartphones and tablets has seized control of more than 1 million Google accounts since August, according to research from security firm Checkpoint Software Technologies Limited. The apps had innocent-sounding names such as Stopwatch, Perfect Cleaner, and Wi-Fi Enhancer, but they exploited known flaws in older versions of the Android operating system to take control of devices and install other apps and add spewing software without permission. Some of the unauthorized apps also use the victim's username and password to post fake reviews. So this Gooligan is really as a nuisance, to post fake reviews on websites in your name. It's kind of like, come on. The malicious Trojan horse software known as Gooligan was found in 86 fraudulent apps and has been affecting about 13,000 Android devices a day. Checkpoint said the Gooligan apps come from third-party app stores rather than Google's authorized Play Store. But some apps downloaded without authorization can be found on Google Play. Checkpoint said users whose devices have been affected see pop-up ads and unwanted software, said the Israel-based security firm. Gooligan is a variant of malicious software known as Ghost Push. That's Ghost and Push, Push, which has been giving Android users headaches for 2 years. Google, a unit of Alphabet, last year tracked more than 40,000 Ghost Push apps. We appreciate Checkpoint's partnership as we work together to understand and take action on these issues, a Google spokesman said on Tuesday. Checkpoint researchers shared the findings with Google and work closely with the company to develop techniques to fix infected devices. A Checkpoint spokeswoman said, "We continue to work with Google today to discover who or what group is responsible for the Gooligan campaign." Google said it has removed apps associated with Ghost Push from Google's Play. It has also taken steps. To disrupt the servers used by the malware's creators and to secure Google's accounts compromised by the malicious software. Although free apps offered by alternative stores can be enticing, they come with risk, Google said in a Google Plus post. The company urged users to download only from the Play Store. Devices at risk from the Gooligan software are those using Android 4, the version nicknamed Jelly Bean or Kit Kat, initially released in 2012, or Android 5, the Lollipop, also released in 2014, Checkpoint said. Users wondering if the devices have been compromised. If you're wondering whether or not your device has been compromised, visit Checkpoint's site for a mobile phone checkup and learn more. So go to Checkpoint's site and look up the Gooligan software check and scan your phone software, your system, more than likely. Gooligan thrives on an increasingly serious Android problem. Users don't update their operating systems, leaving their smartphones and tablets vulnerable to attacks that exploit known software bugs. So it looks like this is our company mascot, by the way. Okay, he's a cyber expert also, and his name is Lazy Bones, and he's very good at spotting bugs and vulnerabilities as well. Okay, Android's overall security hasn't measurably improved since 2012, said Dave Attell, chief executive of cybersecurity firm Immunity Incorporated. It's been a long time since everybody has been telling Google that they've had a serious problem with the ecosystem and lack of updates. Because control over software updates lies in the hands of users, carriers, and phone manufacturers, there is no single entity that can mandate a widespread software update, he said. Now, so you guys, this is kind of important, that part right there about Android and Google's relationship with manufacturers, because Google's licensing out the manufacturer of the phones. You can get phones, Android phones from ranging in price from who knows $20 all the way up to as much as you want to pay, a couple of $100s or something. But everybody is manufacturing the phones with a Google license, but that doesn't mean that they're doing the type of quality control. That doesn't mean that they're updating the firmware and have the latest operating system and bug fixes installed on the phones. And when it comes to, even after the fact, after you've had your phone for a while, unfortunately, not every manufacturer is interested in pushing out those security vulnerability updates to you, or notifying you, or making you aware that there's issues that you need to be, on top of. So that's one of the issues, unfortunately, with the Android and the Google setup, is because primarily because Apple owns the phones, owns the software, owns the operating system, controls the App Store. It's a lot easier to stay on top of security issues. So let's see what else. A Google spokesman said the company has taken steps recently that have significantly reduced the chances of Android users installing malicious software, including full disk encryption for Android devices, a bounty program that pays security researchers when they find new bugs, and new technology that makes web browsing safer on Android. According to Google, 73% of Android users are on the Jelly Bean, KitKat, or Lollipop Android releases. Fewer than 25% are on newer Android versions, including Marshmallow, released last year, and Nugget, released this year. Although the malicious software has infected more than 1 million Google accounts, that is a small percentage of the more than 1.4 billion devices that run on Android software. So it looked like Google is downplaying. As far as I can tell, it looks like Google is downplaying the idea that that this problem is as big as it is. Let's see. One second here. Let me make sure that we still have a good broadband connection. Okay, so yeah. Let me repeat this part here. According to Google, 73% of Android users are on the Jelly Bean, KitKat, or Lollipop Android releases. Fewer than 25% are on newer Android versions, including Marshmallow, released last year, and Nugget, released this year. Although the malicious software has affected more than 1 million Google accounts, that is a small percentage of the more than 1.4 billion devices that run on Android software. So Google is basically playing down the idea that because people aren't upgrading to the latest versions, that somehow that's probably more on the users. But yeah, people do that. They get phones and they keep them forever, and they don't upgrade right away, if ever. and they don't install patches and do scans or whatever. So manufacturers working for Android or making those phones. Everybody in the ecosystem working for Google really had to take some responsibility for this, because it looks like a lot of hackers are taking advantage of this piecemeal type of system, or what they call ecosystem that Google has. Okay, so moving right along, overcoming congressional barriers on cybersecurity oversight. Again, overcoming congressional barriers on cybersecurity oversight. A major obstacle to enhance cybersecurity in the U.S. federal government is the way committees are structured in Congress. Today's ISMG Security Report leads off with House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Michael McCall and DHS Secretary Jay Johnson lament about the congressional bureaucracy that has as many as 10 committees provide oversight to DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, the federal agency responsible for civilian cybersecurity. That, they say, hinders enactment of needed cybersecurity legislation. So in a nutshell, it looks like the government has too many cooks in the kitchen and not enough workers. There's too many people, who are trying to dictate or be in charge, as compared to streamlining the operations when it comes to cybersecurity. It's creating. It looks like it's more barriers and roadblocks than anything. The ISMG security report appears on this and other ISMG websites on Tuesdays and Fridays. Let me see. Wait a minute. Where am I? Okay, so that part, yeah, that's as much as we want to say on the overcoming congressional barriers on cybersecurity oversight. So let's keep in mind that if we're going to protect the internet, if we're going to be on top of cybersecurity as a nation, governments really have to streamline who's reporting to who, what agencies are ultimately going to be in control, and if legislation or regulations need to be passed, it needs to go through some sort of channel or some sort of procedure that doesn't involve so much bureaucracy, because the hackers are taking advantage of the delay when 900 different agencies and 15 million individuals need to sign off on something. Okay, that's not helping us. Moving right along, why the ATM skimming surge will continue in 2017. ATM skimming is a growing source of fraud that shows no signs of abating, says Shirley Ensko, a financial fraud expert and analyst at the consultancy I8 Group, that's AITE Group, which just issued a new report about ATM fraud. The report confirms skimming is United States banks' biggest fraud concern. Ensko notes, skimming has continued to grow worldwide despite the rollout of EMV chip cards, because most payment cards still retain a magnetic stripe. But other factors are contributing to the growth of skimming in the United States, Ensko explains in an interview with Information Security Media Group. We as consumers use ATMs all the time to withdraw money, and that means in order to reduce operating costs of servicing those machines and replenishing that cash, more and more U.S. banks are going to go to larger bills in the machines, she says. As they do that, it makes the ATMs more attractive to theft. Certainly, if you think about a jackpotting scheme, that's another term that refers to how the hackers are targeting the machines now that are using the larger bills, where you're dispensing 50s instead of 10s and 20s. That becomes a very attractive scheme. So again, when the ATM vendors and suppliers and such are taking the 10s and 20s out and putting 20s and 50s, for instance, then that becomes more enticing. So I think instead of those guys addressing the issue, they're making it more enticing for the hackers and skimmers. In addition to skimming, Physical attacks, such as those involving explosives, are also on the rise in the United States. Insco says, we've seen a real upsurge in explosives being used to break into these machines to steal money, she says. We have seen physical theft of the entire ATM itself because of the low risk of getting caught and a very high potential reward in the amount of money they might gain. We're really seeing an uptick in this to the extent that some large banks are now putting in the ability to tell when the machines move at all to send off an alarm so that they're aware that the machine may be in process of getting stolen. So again, this is very important because, see, a lot of the ATMs, and particularly in the United States, you guys, are still running Windows XP, and that hasn't been updated and won't be updated for security vulnerabilities ever because Microsoft is no longer supporting it. So we have a lot of ATM machines that are very vulnerable, and instead of the vendors and the banks and such, updating the operating systems completely, they're stuffing the machines with larger bills. Tens and twenties is I guess wasn't enough. They want to put 20s and 50s, and now there's more activity as far as jackpotting now. ATMs are going to get literally hauled off on the back of a pickup truck or something, unless someone has time to rig dynamite up and just blow it up or something. So moving right along, Experian, why cyber attacks could escalate to cyber war. Cyber espionage and other increasingly sophisticated nation-state cyber attacks will escalate into what amounts to cyber war in 2017, predicts security expert Michael Brummer of Experian Data Breach Resolution. We've seen some of the cyber attacks, particularly those attributed to Russia and China, attack more than just private businesses, but also attack infrastructure and government entities. Brummer said, I do think we'll see at least one large attack by one of the entities outside the United States that will officially be crossing the line where cyber war is declared. There will be countermeasures taken by the United States or even offensive measures to protect itself, and that's going to be a first-time event in our history. So basically what Bremer is saying is something that we really need to address and address quickly. Michael Bremer is hitting on a key point here because we need to declare, for instance, what's infrastructure. Critical infrastructure is your banks, is your utility companies, your power companies, hospital organizations, etc., etc. When nations like the United States or China or Russia or whatever declare critical infrastructure, nuclear power facilities, that means if another nation strikes or threatens or those facilities, then you have a right to declare war. So yeah, Michael is talking about when you have to act. You have to act when you declare that your banking system, again, your hospitals, your utility company or something, when they're declared off limits by declaring them as a critical infrastructure, that means I have a right to go to war with you if you ever do anything to jeopardize critical infrastructure. So yeah, in the future we'll probably have to take a look at actually doing something about the problem to send a signal to those who want to damage or take over or hijack your critical infrastructure or hack into it or whatever, because that at some point you have to say, look, you can hit these lesser priority targets, but if you hit the high priority targets, then we have a right to do something, bombs, war, whatever it is. And that's what basically Michael is saying. And also, just to reiterate that point or drive it home a little bit more, we need to declare what's critical infrastructure and what's not, and we need to consider striking back. The cybersecurity, a lot of cybersecurity professionals are taking a look at the hack back idea. That's whereby if you hack my company's database or something, I can hack back. I can go back and find you and hack into your systems and bring them down and destroy data whatever, because some companies are not. It's not enough for all companies to just be defensive, but some of them want to send a signal. And believe it or not, there's a number of companies, a number of cyber companies out there that want to operate on that level with corporate America. They want you to hire them, and they will go outside the United States, and they'll hack into Chinese companies' systems, or Russian systems, or whoever they are. They'll hack them and steal data, destroy data, bring down systems, whatever. So that's known as hackback, and maybe we should consider that as well. So moving right along to the remainder of this article, in addition to the escalating sophistication of potential cyber attacks next year, organizations across all sectors, as well as consumers, need to be prepared to prevent and respond to more aftershock breaches, which involves the reuse of login credentials that were compromised in earlier breaches, Brummer says. Credentials stolen from breaches of companies such as AOL, Google, Yahoo, and LinkedIn are being used to access accounts of the individuals originally impacted, but who didn't take the time to update or change their credentials so that they couldn't be reused again, he says. So again, aftershock breaches are going to become more and more common, and we need to, as civilians and consumers or whatever, we need to understand, like, when someone compromises your account, your Yahoo account, your LinkedIn account or something, go back and change usernames and passwords for not only that account, but some of the other accounts that have common usernames and passwords, because hackers will take a look at using that username, that password on multiple accounts. They'll go look at your profile on Google or Facebook or Twitter, and they'll try your banking account. They'll try your other accounts as well with the same username and password. So you can't duplicate usernames and passwords across multiple accounts. You have to have unique usernames and passwords in order to prevent aftershock breaches. Moving right along, let's see, what do we have here? 15 superstar hackers under 15 years old. So again, on a lighter note, we have 15-year-olds who are now deemed the superstar hackers of the world, because let's read why, okay? In this article, we profile 15 hackers under 15 years old. One striking theme: the kids all had a strong sense of ethics and a desire to create a safer digital future for their peers rather than create chaos online for pranks. Sci-Fi, CYFI, who declined to give her first name for privacy reasons, is one of the most prominent young hackers in the country. And the 15-year-old from Silicon Valley is imbued with a strong honor code. She co-founded R, look like 00TZ. That's R as in Ralph, 00, T as in Thomas, Z as in Zebra, Asylum, a hub for ethical hacking workshops for kids on the sidelines of the vaunted DEF CON hacking conference, and teaches the mantra, only hack for good. So her mantra again is only hack for good. Only hack things you own. Do not hack anything you rely on. Respect the rights of others. Know the law, the possible risks, and the consequences for breaking it. The R00TZ honor student honor code reads, roots, basically is spelling out roots, R00TZ, is about creating a better world. You have the power and responsibility to do so. Now go do it. That's what she says. She's a 15-year-old. Watch Sci-Fi explain why she thinks ethical hacking is critical to protecting people's homes, schools, and workplaces. We actually have some, included with the article. I'll put it in the show notes, but she has a video. All these kids have videos and such associated with their profiles, these 15-year-olds. Hacking has become a much more acceptable hobby for kids as digital threats increase. There's an influx of corporate money funding training programs for young people with the hope of filling a cybersecurity workforce shortage already estimated at 1 million jobs. There are also more incentives for kids to pursue ethical hacking than ever before, as companies increasingly adopt bug bounty programs to reward hackers who find security weaknesses in their systems with cash or other prizes. Unlike the early days of the internet in the 1990s, when many ethical hackers worried about getting arrested over their work, today's young white hat hackers are actively encouraged by adults. There's Andrew Wang, for instance, who captained the team that last year beat out more than 460 others to win the middle school Cyber Patriot National Cyber Defense Competition. It's organized by the Air Force Association to test the technical skills of high schoolers and middle schoolers and inspire them to go into cybersecurity or related technology fields. Now, I blogged on this before, the Cyber National Defense Cyber Defense Competition. Again, it's called the Cyber Patriot National Cyber Defense Competition. Get your young ones, if you have children, nephews, or nieces or something, look up the Cyber Patriot National Cyber Defense Competition. See if you can enroll your children into that program, and maybe they'll be the next Mark Zuckerbergs or the some of the other people who run some of the other companies, the LinkedIns, the Twitters, etc., because that's again, there's a tremendous shortage of at least 1 million jobs. I think they mentioned earlier. That they have to fill, and they have a tough time filling all these positions. So that's Andrew Wang, and then there are techies like Paul Van, V-A-N-N, who downloaded online hacking tools and started to teach himself how to break into Wi-Fi networks after reading a book by self-described break-in artist Kevin Mitnick, called Ghost in the Wires, whose escapades famously included stealing proprietary code from companies. But Paul, based in Virginia, wanted to make sure he didn't break any rules, so he asked his neighbors for permission to break into their home internet. I was finally able to break into something without getting into trouble, says Paul, 14 years old, who has since founded his own cybersecurity company called Van Tech, or V-A-N-N Tech. It's really important you consider ethics before you try to break into another system, and you want to make sure whatever you're doing is not going to harm that system, and whatever you do, tell that person. So that's a brief summary of the 15 under 15. These are world-renowned teenagers, and they're making their impression on the cyber world. And you may want to get your children involved at an early age, have them do something constructive, stay out of trouble, and consider that this very lucrative, well-paid sector, fast-growing sector where kids can actually do good by using their hacking skills. Okay, Android smartphone ships with spyware pre-installed. Mobile security is a huge issue, but most consumers tend to think that at least a brand new phone is safe. That assumption may be an error, according to security research firm CryptoWire. In a new report, CryptoWire documents the inclusion of software tools collectively called ADUPs, that's ADUPS, which allegedly shipped on phones like the Blue, BLU, R1, HD, and other devices sold internationally, including the U.S. market via Amazon and Best Buy. If true, the report is a damning accusation for the software's creator, Shanghai ADUPS Technology, and its manufacturer and carrier partners. CryptoWire claims that ADUPS has the capability to collect IMEI data, SMS logs, and contents, call logs, contact names, and IP addresses, then send that data back to third-party servers in China without notification or permission from users. Said data was collected and encrypted every 24 to 72 hours in the testing phase, then transmitted to two specific IP addresses owned by ADUPS. Even worse, the software can remotely install new applications with system-level permissions. So basically that translates into this software is going to take over your Android phone, get root-level permission or access, install software, send call logs, data, text messages, everything back to servers in China, and there's nothing that you can do about it until you get that off of the phone or get another phone. ADUPS bills itself as a company that supplies services for over-the-wire software delivery, Though AdUps does not exclusively service cell phones, its marketing material includes connected cars, home monitoring equipment, retail sales software, and wearable technology. It claims 700 million active users in over 200 countries. The remote backup and install capabilities of the AdUp software aren't unheard of, but they're generally available only to manufacturers and carriers and aren't usually paired with access to personally identified information like contact names. So it looks like the company may have started out not making these vulnerabilities such that they could affect consumers or whatever. But it looks like, unfortunately, someone tweaked the software or whatever and turned the phones into remote monitoring spy phones, basically used by adepts or people in China or whoever is ultimately controlling this. CryptoWire's findings have not been independently verified, and a full list of affected devices has not been posted. If you were to check your own device, the APK files reportedly responsible for transmitting data and remotely accessing hardware are com.adups.foda. That's com.adups, A-D-U-P-S, .foda, F-O-T-A, and com.adups.foda.sysoper. Okay? CryptoWire's report says that Google, Amazon, Blue, and AdUps have been alerted to its contents. ARS Technica reports that Blue has already patched the affected devices and that the software is no longer transmitting personal information. Several of our readers have been sent emails directly from Amazon informing them that a crucial security update was coming in for the Blue R1 HD. While the spyware in the report above wasn't specifically mentioned, it seems pretty safe to assume that this triggered a fast update. So the email that went out to, I think this went out to Amazon's customers. There was Amazon saying, we recently learned of a potential security issue with the Blue smartphone. Our records indicate that you purchased or registered Blue R1 HD, 16 gigabyte, black, prime exclusive, with lock screen offers and ads. Okay, Blue intends to push out a software update that will fix the issue. Any phone that is powered on and connected to the internet through Wi-Fi or cellular data connection will automatically receive the update. For information, including a list of affected phones and instructions for confirming that your phone has been updated, please visit www.blueproducts.com/security or contact Blue customer service at 1-877-602-8762 or email service@blueproducts.com. That's service@blueproducts.com. Sincerely, customer service, Amazon. So that pretty much wraps this session up. You guys, the CyberSecurity Newsflash, protecting the Wayback Machine. Make sure that what you read is double, triple checked and verified. Write to your congressman. We're just summarizing here. Write to your congressman. Let them know cybersecurity, even in the Trump administration, needs to be a high priority. They need to streamline how they pass legislation for cybersecurity protection. I don't know whether or not the Republicans going to repeal or replace Obamacare, but they need to be careful. There's 21 million people who have health care data records out there associated with the ACA. And that information, nobody's talking about what's going to happen to those records, those medical records, if the Obamacare is dismantled. We can't just assume that 21 million data records are going to somehow be perfectly okay with no one looking after such a huge honeypot of medical data. People's personal information is going to be turned over to someone, or either it's going to be destroyed or something. But right now, we don't have a clue in terms of what the Trump administration or anybody else who tries to dismantle ACA or tries to do anything with those records. We don't have any idea what they're going to do. Nobody's articulating what's going to happen to the 21 million records, and we need to make sure that we're on top of that. So write your congressman, write your senator, find out what is the game plan for the 21 million data records, medical records that are going to be either moved from one place to the other, or they're going to be deleted, or they're going to something. What's going to happen. So anyway, if you guys want to share this with a friend, relative, enemy, associate, anyone, I'd appreciate it very much. If you have any need for the bug detectors that we offer, the GPS trackers, anti-terrorist products, including the explosive detectors, narcotics detectors, X-ray baggage scanners, digital voice recorders, digital video recorders, etc., etc., give us a call, 888-344-3742, 888-344-3742. We're open 24/7, lifetime guarantees, warranties on all the products. Look forward to working with you, and you guys have a nice and a pleasurable holiday if we don't hear from you, okay? Thanks, take care, bye.